What is up, guys? It's me, HacksDev, back at you again with another video game tutorial. This time it's going to be on mapping inputs in Unreal Engine 5.3. Now, of course, like always, the reason why I'm making a tutorial video myself is because I didn't find one that fit my needs personally. So I'm going to make it myself, just in case there's anyone else like me who wanted to see this certain information in my case, basically. So for me, in my game, I already had an input system. I already had enhanced inputs. I just wanted to know how to remap them, pretty much. So I wasn't starting from zero. I already had the system in there. I just wanted to know how to remap them. So if you're like that, this video is for you. Now, before I do anything else, the first thing I want to say is that Unreal Engine has their official learning portal. Now, this is extremely important if you're a developer, because they have a lot of tutorials that are officially from Epic. So you don't have to look on YouTube or anywhere else for like a tutorial, like secondhand. You can go straight to Epic themselves under the learning portal right here, and they have a bunch of tutorials. I learned so much from this site, so it's really good, basically. And lo and behold, they have one on playable mappable keys. So this is what I followed myself to put it in my game. Now, I didn't follow it 100% because I made some changes near the end, which is why I'm making a video. Or else I would just say, read this article. But yeah, I tried to watch a couple videos and I just couldn't get it. I was like, this is confusing. I don't get it. And then I was like, wait a minute, I'll look it up on Unreal's website. And they had an article. So I will say I will start my tutorial around here. So if you read, I'm going to just assume you've already read all the way up to here. I'm just going to start from here. So I'm assuming you already have your input stuff set up, your all the stuff in the settings. You already have your context, your little input things here. I forget what these are called. Your input actions, you already got that all set up. You just want to know how to remap them. So I will do that. So you're going to want to go to where you add the inputs to your character. So basically, for me here, that's here in the player controller, or not the player controller, the player character rather. It's where you cast your controller. You get the input local player subsystem, and you do add player mappable config, in my case, because I have it basically like 2-in-1 here. You can see I have 2-in-1. It's just easier than doing the same function twice in a row. Technically it's deprecated, but I don't care. I'm not updating my engine, so it works. I don't care. That's the kind of person I am. So if you were like me, you have this and then nothing else, and it works just fine. But what you're going to need to do is you're going to need to add another function. So me personally, I put it in my function library because I think I have to use it as soon as I start the game as well. Not just because I have like a main menu, game mode, and then like an overworld game mode. So I think you have to also put it like right when the game starts. I'm not sure though, but just in case, you don't want to reuse code. So this is what you're going to want to do. So you're going to get your player controller, enhanced input local player subsystem, enhanced user input settings, and then you want to initialize all the contexts that you're going to use in your game. Every single one. Okay, so not just the ones you're using right now. So for example, me, I'm using these two sets of inputs. However, I have like 5 or 6, so I have them all right here. And if you have one, you don't need to have a for loop, but I do. I have multiple ones, so for loop, right? So for each one, you're going to say, is mapping context registered? You don't have to do that, but again, it's good practice. And once you do that, you want to do register input mapping context. So basically what this does, and I amazingly did not get this from any other video I saw, but I got it from Unreal's article on it, is that it pretty much puts your input mappings like in the memory of the game, basically. But it doesn't like put them into practice, essentially. So you have the inputs like stored somewhere, but they won't actually go off in the game until you, for example, do this, right? Until you add player mappable config. After you do that, let me see here, you're going to want to actually remap the keys. So for me, I have a settings menu. Okay, I have a little widget switcher here, so I'm going to change it. This is what mine looks like. It's just a bunch of rows. And these rows are each their own little widget. So if I go here, looks like this. So it's got the space for the name of the input. It's got a input key selector. You will need that. And I think you can just type it in here. It'll come up. Yeah, that's what you need to change the key in the actual UMG, basically. So it already has the functionality for you. You click on it. It says choose a key, and then you can put the key in, and it automatically does it. So the reason why I have two is because one side is keyboard, one side is gamepad, and I'll go over that a little as well because I haven't seen that anywhere else. So, and the reason why I'm going over this part is because in this tutorial on Unreal and everywhere else I've seen, they have it like dynamically add the rows for each input, which you can do. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, but I personally am like a visual person, so I like having it all out. I'm gonna, for reference, if you're following along on the little article, I'm on this part, which you don't need if you're gonna do it like I have it here, where they're already there, and you just need to put the keys inside. Because you can see right here, it's making a widget for each one. I didn't do that. So if you do it this way, it's like, well, how do I get the data then in that case? Let me show you. So the way I did it is like this. So let me go here. So I have two variables here. One is the input action here. So for example, walk forward has its own input action right here, walk forward. And context, for me, this is just to make it easier to search. So like I have it like split up into a couple different ones. This just makes it so I don't have to check as many when I'm seeing which one is correct, basically. It makes the pool a lot smaller because I'll be using a for each loop. Let me go back. Okay, so let's, for example, say that I'm using interact is the input action. So this sets the name over here, right here. You can see it's blank. So it grabs it directly from the input action itself. So this saves you the trouble of hard coding it in yourself. If you change it, for example, if I changed it here, it would also change it on the widget itself, which I think is pretty genius. I know. So then once we go here, you're going to do this get current key profile, and this is a custom pure function. So all it is you're just going to put get player controller, enhanced input local player subsystem, this one right here, and then get current key profile, and that gives you the user profile. So what this does right here is that it gets your current key bindings from the ones that were registered earlier. It's pretty simple, pretty easy. Once you have that little function, you're going to do get player mapping rows. And now for me, this is because I didn't generate it dynamically. I need a way to say, okay, which button is this that we're going to be changing? Which button needs to populate in the settings menu? So this is the context thing I was talking about before. So for example, if I'm using the interact function, for example, right here where it says mappings, each one of these is one mapping. So for example, under interact, I have 3. I have this one, which is interact gamepad. I have this one, which is regular interact. And I have this one, which has ignore settings. Now, ignore settings is actually extremely important, and I haven't seen it brought up anywhere else, except for the article. So what ignore settings does is that it gives you an input that you don't want to remap. Like, you don't want it to be remappable at all. So, like, for example, If you want like the up arrow to always be walk forward, you don't want it to be remappable at all, you don't care, you don't want it to show up anywhere else, just put ignore. And then it won't. The game will ignore it. It's pretty simple. Can't remap it. Pretty good. So, all right, back to here. So it'll get the mappings. Now it'll get everyone that's in here. So it'll get, for example, it'll get the ones for interact. It'll get the ones for pause, all that. But of course, it's one row. So you want to get just the ones that are relevant to the row in question. So you can do find. So it'll find the name of the input here. It'll say, first of all, does it even contain it? Yes or no. It does contain it. Okay, cool. Then you can get it. Then you want to take the associated input action. Say, is this equal to this? And the reason why you want to do this find here is because this gets everything. So, for example, go back here. When we registered everything before, it has all these contexts, but you only care about, say, for me in this example, I only care about the overworld context. So that's why we're using a find here. Then you do a toArray, so you can browse. Really, well, I'm not even gonna get into that. So you can just do get 0. It'll work. And then you can do input action. Does it equal the one you have here? Yes or no. If it does equal it, that means you found the input you're looking for. Then you can do is gamepad key? Yes or no. This is because I have gamepad and keyboard. If you have just one, you don't need to do this. But yeah. And then I save it here. So if it's a keyboard key or mouse key, I'll save as the keyboard name, not gamepad name. And then I set, this is for the variable here, the little thing. It'll set the selected key to whatever it is from the input. So you can see here, you gotta just break this little struct here, take the current key, make input chord, and then you can put it in. Just like that. And that will, this right here, will set the correct key when you first load up your widget. So now, how do you change it? It's easy. So you would go to onKeySelected. It's there by default. You just have to add it here in the bottom for each button. So for example, let's look at the one for the keyboard. So you do get player controller, enhanced local input, get settings, and then you would just do map player key. It's there by default. And you would just do break input chord, key goes here. For the mapping name would be that keyboard name we got earlier. And then you can just plug it right in. Now, if you want to just test it, you can do apply settings. If you want to save it, save settings. And if you do it correctly, then when you go to your saved right here, it'll give you this little enhanced input user settings.save. So that's how you know you'll do it if you did it correctly. So with all that said, I can show you what it looks like in game. I think it's the added stress of recording on my computer. All right, so let's check out that settings page. So for example, you can see all my inputs right here have all populated, except for these because I haven't given them names yet. So yeah, if you don't give your inputs names, like for example, let me go here. Let's look at dungeon. For example, this one, you can see there's nothing here. I haven't given it a name yet. It won't come up because, well, in a map, you have to have unique names. So, it doesn't have a unique name, won't even come up. So, let's see here. They're all populated, WASD, they're all correct. And I can change them. So I click. And for example, I set this to T. I go back. If I try to use W, it no longer works. But if I use T, it does work. And if I close the game, this is because I have a punch that I haven't mapped yet. If I close the game and open it again, it's still using T, not W. So, that's how you do input mappings. It's actually not that bad. It's just the documentation, and I guess the way people have been explaining it is just, I don't know, it wasn't vibing with me, so I tried to make it myself. Hopefully this helped you out a bit. If not, I can answer your questions if you want. Write in the comments. Do whatever you'd like. I hope it helped you. And yeah, I'll make another tutorial if the need arises. And I'll see you next time.